Hi there, my darling AB Tech folks out at Madison High School. I hope y'all are having a wonderful, somewhat normal-ish week back, and that you're starting to kind of feel your groove and you are sort of like vibing with the semester. So, I've been really enjoying like reading everybody's work and kind of seeing where everybody's coming from. I hope that everybody had a chance to read my email. I definitely noticed a lot of the same patterns in regards to some of your writing on the last reading response. So I think I mentioned this as a whole. I I definitely want to kind of demystify literature so that y'all can feel comfortable taking some risks in your writing. And that being said, I also want to address the fact that I do worry that some of you may be using AI summaries instead of reading the text. And so if that's the case, I kind of want to like encourage you to like harness your voice. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit. And so I'm going to try to make this fairly brief because there's a lot to talk about today. So the readings that we're going to be doing this week is we're going to focus in on the Harlem Renaissance, which is one of my favorite movements. And so you're going to read Langston Hughes and Debating Black Art and Claude McKay or County Cullen. And these are some fantastic works. And so I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about it. I know I'm a little late in getting this to you this week, but as you guys are going through this week, just remember that we are kind of adding in some of the things that we've been looking at in regards to your muckraking research project. And so I am going to be popping in and giving you some feedback and have been kind of working up to that. So please make sure that after my lesson today that you really focus in on source notes here and then note that your first draft of your editorial is due on Sunday at 11:59. So we are doing a reading reflection this week, but it is a little bit different. So nobody freak out and be like, "Oh no, that's so much writing." No, don't worry about that. It's going to be a mosaic with kind of a reflection piece of choice. So it's a lot more relaxed in regards to reading response rules. So just please feel free to like take a lot of like creative ownership with your ideas on that. Okay, so here we go. Here are some things that I have. I have the Negro Artist and Rachel Mountain. It is a really cool piece. It's not a required reading by any stretch, but it is a lot of detail about Langston Hughes' work. I've got my slides here that I'm going to be going through for the Harlem Renaissance. And then I've got this really interesting website that I found, which is Langston Hughes's revisions and his writing process for his poetry. And I just find this absolutely fascinating, especially if you consider just like the meticulous nature of his word choice and like how he changes and adds and moves things around in order to emphasize different aspects of this Black American experience. And so enjoy that. I think it's a really fascinating read. It also kind of calls to my mind like the power of revision and just like how it is to like get in deep on like what you are like meaning and like how you're expressing it with your text. Okay. All right. So a couple of other resources. I'm going to be going through my source lesson on this video. And then I've got a good sources handout that gives you some guides on where to look for sources for muckraking to kind of get you moving. On the editorial exemplar here, if you open that up, I wanted to make sure that you had a good model for this. And I know that it is a little bit of a different type of writing. And so I want you to have an example from a class and So this one is called Myth Making Mangione, the UHC shooting and its aftermath. And so this is specifically like talking about the shooting from last year. So at the time that it was written, it was incredibly timely. And so, like this year, we might be getting into things like the Epstein files, or you might be getting into like something that has to do with like your grassroots movements in Madison County. But this is a really interesting take, and this is a really cool like muckraking approach. It is biased, and so like your politics, may not agree with this person, and that is okay. Just having access and seeing like the argument, even if you are like staunchly against the argument, you can always come back to it. Okay. All right. So, all right, I'm going to start. So, your source notes are going to be due with your first draft. And then we're going to do the Harlem Renaissance Mosaic and Reflection. The Harlem Renaissance Mosaic and Reflection is this. I know several of you have already started it, so thank you. And so you're going to put your piece on here following the mosaic instructions with a reflection, and that's going to be what we do in lieu of a traditional reading response. Okay, so now let's get into the nuts and bolts of what we need to discuss today. So, all right, so the first thing that we need to talk about is sourcing for your muckraking paper. Okay, so when we're looking at sourcing and thinking about how we're going to like source for things like muckraking, especially if you're taking like a really adamant stance against something, you want to look at online articles, books, academic journals, and mixed media. Mixed media is one of our requirements. So, what makes a good source? Online written articles, websites, and mixed media. Your source should be written or produced within the last 5 years. The only exception would be a historical source. Sites to avoid sort of is like Wikipedia, Reddit, or anything overtly like one-sided or biased, especially if you have to like evaluate the information. Wikipedia is not a bad place to begin. It has a lot of good information, but you do have to go source fishing. And so source fishing is where you go to like the ideas in the Wikipedia article, and you click on the little number up in the front, and it'll give you the source, and you can trace the source. The thing about Wikipedia is it's tertiary, so it's just like a composite of a bunch of sources. So you have to trace their information. But other places to go, libraries, Digital Library of Congress. You can also go to like the AB Tech search and do EBSCOhost or Ramsey Library at UNCA. So the thing about good academic sources is that academic journals are written within the last 5 years. They're created by an expert in the field. They're peer reviewed, or they're from a reputable library or content site. And so peer review is the process by which scholars assess the quality and accuracy of each other's research. And here's a little YouTube video if you'd like more information on how to like look at peer review. But how can you tell? The article will tell you directly the entire site is peer reviewed or the peer review is inferred, but that's if it's like on a site like a database. So the databases that you want to follow are on the AB Tech's website, on the library. So I'll go ahead and show you where to go. If you go to AB Tech library, okay, you'll get the library up here. Okay. And when you're looking and you want to look for like databases, you go to off campus. Oh, that's off campus access, but that still works, right? So off campus access. Um, and then you can access like your ebook and resources and select topics and go through the actual databases that way. And you have to sign in. Some other ways to do it is you want to make sure that you're doing like Boolean searches, which is where you are going to focus in on like the ands or the ors. But if you need help finding peer-reviewed sources, let me know because I know it is difficult. But when you find good sources, make sure to narrow from like domestic cats from Perth, popular domestic cats from Perth, Australia in 2022. So just make sure that you're narrowing your topic in. Narrowing your search. Two main ways to narrow your search. One way is to use the limiters within the database, and the other is to limit using keywords. So keyword searches are like the terms anywhere that you can record, like climate change, not, and, etc. Okay, finding sources. All right, so here's some databases you can access through AB Tech. So Google Scholar is always a good one, but it is limited in what it has. JSTOR, Base, and ERIC. These are all really good databases that appear on the AB Tech databases, okay? All right, choosing a journal. When you find or choosing a journal, make sure it's written within the last 5 years by a reputable source, peer reviewed, and make sure it's available that you can access it. I'm not going to go through this because this video is going to be quite long, but this kind of walks you through what it looks like to do a base search with like a specific type of topic. So if you need more like clarification on how to do that, then click on that link and it'll kind of walk you through that process. Okay, so as you're looking to identify the sources, when was the source written? Who wrote it? Why did they write it? Was the study funded? What is the sample size? Is it from a reputable source? Is it peer reviewed? Okay. Make sure that you discuss who owns or produces the source or know that, right? Who advertises the source and does it present both sides of the argument? What type of language is being used, right? And so since you're muckraking, you have to also like evaluate whether or not the bias is worth your argument, right? So if it's something that's like a testimonial, it might be super biased. And so your response to it has to be balanced in a way by addressing the counter argument. So, if you notice any of the following, your source might be biased. It's heavily opinionated or one sided, relies on unsupported or unsubstantiated claims, presents highly selected facts. The author is unidentifiable, lacks expertise, or writes on unrelated topics, tries to sell you something, etc. Right? So, like, as you are collecting sources for muckraking, you also have to vet the sources and make sure that they are actually going to be telling the truth. Things that you might want to look out for is like very sensational headlines, like top 10 most delusional facts. Um, Other keywords to look for is like agenda, hyperbole, objective, parody, satire, subjective, because those are all things that would indicate that the source is not credible. There's also false or misleading news, like things that can't be verified, or it appeals to emotion, or authors are not usually the experts in this case, or the claims are not easily found elsewhere and the site is not legitimate. Um, and then if you're choosing APA over MLA, it's one of the types. And so make sure that you cite all of that correctly if you're using APA above MLA. Um, but you can actually download a template on the website. And so, oh wait, yeah, I do have a template, and so this is a way to like create your own. But I do have a template if you'd like one. Then there's citation tools. You can use Scribber. You can also use like Citation Machine. I use Google Docs. Okay, so then this is the big one that I wanted to make sure that I covered before Harlem Renaissance. So the first thing is academic integrity. Use your own ideas, produce your own work, earn your own credit. Academic integrity is the commitment to and demonstration of honest and moral behavior in an academic setting. In simplest terms, it requires acknowledging the contributions of other people. Okay, so here is how Merriam Webster defines the idea of cheating. Okay. Misrepresentation, claiming that that a product is original work of the student, falsifying information, copying someone else's work, right? Y'all know this. The unauthorized, this is the one you guys need to remember, the unauthorized use of material using Spark Notes, Cliff Notes, study aids, books, formulas, calculators, electronic devices, cell phones, artificial intelligence, or other sources without permission of the specific teacher. So I want to be very clear. This is a quote from Alicia Finley. Excessive reliance on AI could spawn a generation of brainless young people unequipped for the jobs of the future because they have never learned to think creatively or critically. So, how can we use AI to support our learning instead of replacing it? Many of you had a lot of the same arguments in your last reading response. And I get it. Mark Twain's not the most stimulating writer, and it might have been boring. And I get it. And like some of the stuff that we're going to read is going to be a little bit more boring, and some of it's not. But here's the thing: if you completely outsource your brain, like I'm not going to read all this, but like here's an example of a syllabus at UNC Chapel Hill if you're interested in going there. Um, but it's the idea that you can use like generative AI to give you topic selection, brainstorming, um, idea generation, research, source validation, outlining, and planning, right? These are the things that I would consider to be acceptable. Okay. Now, a lot of research writing is like a synthesis type of writing where you are bringing in academic sources to support your ideas. So AI is here. How do we use AI to support our learning without replacing it? Voice is important, tone is important, your ideas are important, development appropriate is also key. This is a college course, but you're still in high school. So what does that mean? Okay. So an AI hallucination is when a bot fakes things to make it sound as fact. Research conducted by OpenAI found that its latest and most powerful reasoning models hallucinated 33% and 48% of the time. For example, in SUNY, student uses a chatbot to investigate the role of masculinity in Spider-Man movies. The bot she was using wrote a great length about an article by T. Sasson in 2018. And it goes into, according to Sasson, and it comes again, very AI response, explores the masculinity within a coming of age narrative, showcasing the complexities of growing up amid traditional gender expectations, right? Sounds very robotic. The chat box even provided a works cited list, giving the essay and the citation in this Marvel Comics essays and adaptations. The problem: the collection of essays does exist, but it doesn't have an essay by T. Sasan. In fact, T. Sasan doesn't even exist. So the thing is, these things are here, but they're going to fake you out. Okay. So, like, you have to read the primary and secondary sources directly, perform your own analysis, and use your own choices. Students may not use AI to write or create assignments for them. The thing is it ever okay to ask an AI to do an assignment for you? No, period. Don't take it the wrong way. And I mean it in the nicest way possible, but you just simply don't know enough yet about how to research and write to know if AI is spitting out good stuff or bad stuff. About half of you had like the same evidence in your last reading response. And how do you know if it's good? How do you know if it even came from chapter 1? What did you just copy and paste and even read it? Like, do you even know what that was like in the book? What if it was completely lying to you? And so you don't want to stunt your own critical and creative thinking skills that are both essential to life and essential for using AI meaningfully. So AI is meant to be a tool, just like a calculator or an audiobook. It's helping us learn. It's not doing the work for us. So don't outsource your thinking. The future of AI is not about replacing humans. It's about augmenting human capabilities. Nuts and bolts. Okay. Do not wholesale copy and paste a work product from generative AI. Use of AI tools such as Grammarly to wholesale reformat or refine your writing for submission as your own work. That means, like, if you put it in to help you revise your writing, you got to go back and look at that because it sometimes makes your writing sound, frankly, more robotic and more stunted than if you had just had it the way you had originally written it. So make sure that, like, it's speaking the way you want it to speak, not citing the use of AI tools like any other source, not citing as correctly as plagiarism. So please cite if you use AI tools to, like, find things and specifically, like, rewrite something. Collaborative learning with AI is appropriate. Ethical use to support learning, use of AI tools to gather research, use of AI tools to gather complex concepts, and AI tools for questions about writing style, voice, and citing the use of AI in text and in a works cited page, just like any other source. Okay, and there's my works cited. So I want you to keep that in mind as you are working on your muckraking. And then I am going to record a different video for, oh, where's